was just another ordinary night, the kind of night where the world feels quiet and everything seems to slow down. I had just finished washing the dishes, turned off the lights in the kitchen, and walked into the bedroom. There he was, my husband, sleeping peacefully, his chest rising and falling like nothing in the world could touch him. For a moment, I just stood there, watching him, feeling the kind of calm you get when you think everything is okay. But deep down, something wasn't right. I didn't know what yet, but something in my gut whispered that something was off. We had been married for 6 years, not perfect years, but good ones. We had our ups and downs like any couple, arguments over silly things, long talks that stretched into the night, and laughter that echoed through the house. I thought I knew him. I thought I could read every little change in his mood, every glance, every silence. But lately, he'd been distant. He smiled less. He stayed glued to his phone even when I was trying to talk to him. I tried not to overthink it. Maybe it was work, maybe it was stress, but something told me I needed to look closer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. I wanted to believe it was all in my head. I wanted to trust him. But when he shifted in his sleep and his phone buzzed quietly on the nightstand, something snapped inside me. It was the third time that evening. Who keeps texting at 2 a.m.? I reached for the phone, my hands shaking. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to become that person, the one who snoops, who digs, who doesn't trust. But I had to know. I unlocked it. What I saw in that moment changed everything. There were messages, dozens of them. Some deleted, some left open. A woman's name I didn't recognize. Words that weren't meant for me. Pictures, plans. Secrets spilled out of that screen like poison, and with every scroll I felt my world cracking piece by piece. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might wake him up, but he didn't move. He just lay there, sleeping like a man without a care in the world, while mine was crumbling beside him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him awake and ask him why, but instead I sat there in the dark, my hand still holding his phone, my eyes full of tears I hadn't even noticed were falling. I didn't know what to do next. Was I ready to confront him? Was I strong enough to hear the truth straight from his mouth? I looked back at him, peaceful, calm, unaware, and I realized something. This night would be the turning point. Everything I thought I knew about our life, our marriage, and him was about to unravel. But how I would deal with it, what I'd say, what I'd do, that was still unknown. And what came next, it was something I never expected. I sat there for what felt like hours, though it was probably just minutes. My fingers were still cold from holding his phone, and my heart wouldn't stop pounding. Every part of me wanted to wake him up, to demand answers, to scream, cry, anything. But I didn't move. I just kept staring at the screen, rereading the same messages over and over like I was hoping they'd somehow change. They didn't. They were clear. They were real. And they weren't meant for me. Her name was Kayla. At first it didn't mean anything, just a name. But the way he spoke to her, it wasn't just flirting or some casual chat. It was deep, personal. The kind of words you say to someone you're emotionally connected to. The kind of words he used to say to me before everything started feeling distant. I scrolled back, trying to find when it all began. Weeks, maybe even months. Pictures from hotels, secret lunches, a shared playlist. The kind of details that make you realize this wasn't some brief mistake. It was a second life. I thought back to the last few months, the late work meetings, the weekend errands that took too long, the way he pulled away when I tried to hold his hand on the couch. It all started to make sense, and that was the worst part. The signs were there, and I ignored them. I told myself not to be paranoid. I gave him space because I thought he needed it. I trusted him because that's what you're supposed to do when you love someone. And now all I could think about was how blind I'd been. I didn't know how to process what I had just uncovered. Part of me still wanted to find some explanation, some way to believe it wasn't what it looked like. But the proof was right there in front of me. Still, there was a part of the story I didn't know. Who was she really? How did they meet? Was she someone I knew? Was it serious? Was he planning to leave me, or was I just his backup life? I needed more. I couldn't just sit in the dark with half the truth. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened his email. It felt wrong. I hated it. But I was already so deep into something I never imagined being a part of. The inbox was mostly boring. Work stuff, receipts, newsletters. But then I saw it. A reservation confirmation, a weekend trip, just 3 weeks ago. The destination wasn't far, just a couple hours away, but it was booked for two, and I had never heard anything about it. I sat back and stared at the wall, feeling like I was trapped in someone else's story. This wasn't the life I thought I was living. This wasn't the man I thought I married. And still, he lay beside me, undisturbed, dreaming as if none of this was happening. The silence in the room was too much. Every second that passed made it harder to breathe. But I couldn't confront him, not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed answers, not just from his phone or his email, but from him. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't just uncovering infidelity. I was uncovering a side of him I didn't even know existed. And whatever I was about to find next, I had a feeling it would only go deeper. The next morning felt different. Not because anything had changed on the surface, but because everything had changed inside me. He woke up like nothing was wrong, yawning, stretching, giving me the same sleepy smile he always did. And I played along. I smiled back. I even made coffee. But every second, my mind was racing, my stomach twisted in knots. How could he act so normal, knowing what he was hiding? How could he kiss me on the forehead, ask about my plans for the day while a whole other life was tucked away in his phone? I watched him closely. Every movement, every word. I started noticing things I'd brushed off before. The way he kept his phone face down, how he stepped outside to take certain calls. The way his voice changed when he talked to me. Too careful, too polite, like he was avoiding getting too close. It was subtle, but now that I knew what to look for, it was all too clear. I kept quiet that day. I needed more time, more information. I started paying attention to his routine, his excuses, the moments he drifted off into his own world. I even took a day off work just to stay home and see if he'd notice. He didn't. That hurt more than I expected. It was like I'd already disappeared from his life and he hadn't even realized it yet. That night, while he was in the shower, I did something I wasn't proud of. I messaged her, Kayla. I didn't say who I was. I just wrote, "Do you know he's married?" I didn't expect a response right away, and part of me wasn't even sure I wanted one. But I had to shake the illusion. I needed to know if she was part of this willingly, or if she was being lied to, just like me. Days passed, and I kept my act up, smiling, talking, pretending. But inside I was unraveling. I barely slept. My mind kept playing scenes that never even happened. Him with her, laughing, whispering things he used to say to me. I'd look at our wedding photo on the wall and feel nothing but confusion. Was that moment even real for him? Then the reply came. One sentence. I didn't know he was married. My heart stopped. I stared at it, reread it, trying to figure out if she was telling the truth. Her profile was private, no mutual friends, just a blurry photo of a sunset. I didn't know who she really was or how deeply involved she'd become. But now I knew this went even deeper than I thought. He wasn't just cheating, he was lying to both of us. I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed to think. I needed to breathe. Every path in my mind led to more questions. How long had he been living this lie? Was I the only one he lied to? Or were there more? Was this even his first time? I looked over at him that evening as he sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone like everything was fine. And all I could think was, who are you really? And how far does this go? For days, I felt like I was living in a shadow, watching, waiting, pretending. Every moment we shared now felt like a scene in someone else's life. Scripted, fake. I was trapped between wanting to confront him and needing to know more before I did. There was too much I didn't understand. And then, just when I thought I had seen the worst of it, something else happened. Something I never saw coming. That Friday, he said he had to work late. Again. He kissed me on the cheek, grabbed his laptop bag, and left like it was just another normal day. But this time, I followed him. I didn't plan it. It was one of those moments when instinct takes over. I waited 5 minutes, threw on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and drove after him. My heart was pounding the entire time, but I kept my distance, careful not to get too close. I thought I'd find him pulling into someone's driveway, maybe a hotel, something that would finally confirm everything. But I wasn't ready for where he actually went. He pulled into a quiet neighborhood on the other side of town. Not a hotel, not a restaurant, a house. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. My hands were shaking. It was nearly dark, and the street was quiet. I stayed behind a tree watching as he got out of the car, and then a young boy came running out the front door. The kid couldn't have been older than 5 or 6. He ran straight into my husband's arms, shouting, "Daddy!" like it was the most natural thing in the world. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, watching this entire secret life unfold in front of me. A woman stepped out next, not Kayla, someone else entirely. She smiled, leaned in, kissed him on the cheek, then led them both inside, closing the door behind them. I don't even remember walking back to my car. My hands were trembling too hard to unlock the door at first. I sat in the driver's seat for what felt like forever, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just emotional cheating. It was a double life. A child. A home. An entirely different version of him I didn't even know existed. The lies were so much bigger than I ever imagined. He didn't just betray me. He built something real with someone else. A family. And the worst part was, he came home every night and looked me in the eye like none of it mattered. Like I was just another part of his routine. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the moments he disappeared for work. All the weekends he claimed he needed space. And how I made excuses for him every time. I kept asking myself, how many more lies were hiding in plain sight? And what would happen when I finally uncovered the last one? The next morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I watched him pour his coffee, sit at the kitchen table, and scroll through his phone like everything was normal. But everything had changed. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. I asked him one simple question. Do you have something to tell me? He looked up confused, maybe even slightly nervous. What do you mean? He said. I stared at him, not blinking. I know about Kayla, I know about the messages, and I know about the other house as the child. For a moment, time stood still. He didn't speak. He didn't even flinch. Just stared at me, frozen, like he didn't know whether to lie or run. Then quietly he whispered, I can explain. But there was nothing left to explain. I had seen it all. The double life, the betrayal, the months of deception. I told him I wasn't looking for excuses. I wanted honesty for once. He sat in silence, tears filling his eyes, and finally admitted it. He had been living 2 lives for almost 3 years. It started as a mistake, a secret he thought he could control, and somewhere along the way it turned into something bigger. Something he didn't have the courage to end. I never stopped loving you, he said. I didn't mean for this to happen. Those words meant nothing anymore. Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't lie. I told him I needed space. I needed time to think. I packed a small bag and left that morning. No fights, no screaming, just silence and the sound of everything we built falling apart behind me. But just when I thought the truth was finally out and the worst was over, another message came. It was from Kayla. Only this time it wasn't just a reply, it was a confession. She told me she had been suspicious for weeks. She had done her own digging after our first message. And what she found, she wasn't the only other woman. There was another, and another. What I thought was a twisted double life was actually a web. He had lied to all of us, spun stories, made promises, lived in borrowed time. He wasn't just unfaithful, he was living in a world built entirely on lies. And as I sat alone in my car reading her message, one final truth hit me. This wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning of finding out who he really was. After Kayla's final message, everything clicked into place. The patterns, the strange excuses, the emotional distance. It had never been about just one mistake. He had been living a pattern of betrayal, weaving lies into every corner of his life. And somehow, we all believed him. We trusted him. That was the hardest part to accept. Not just the cheating, but the way he made each of us feel special, like we were the only ones. It was a painful reminder of how easily someone can hide their true self behind charm and routine. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding my life, quietly, away from him. I filed for separation, changed my number, cut all contact. It wasn't out of anger anymore, it was clarity. He had made his choices, and now I had to make mine. There were moments I wanted to reach out, ask why, try to understand, but I realized I'd never get real answers, not the kind that would bring peace. Some people lie because they can, because it gives them control, and because they think they won't get caught. And when they finally do, it's not regret they feel, it's panic that the game is over. I spoke with Kayla once more. We shared our stories, our disbelief, and in a strange way, it helped. Knowing I wasn't alone in this, that she too had been caught in the same web, gave me a sense of calm. We weren't foolish for believing him. We were human. We loved someone who didn't deserve it, and now we were learning how to move forward. There was no dramatic ending, no final confrontation or breakdown, just quiet acceptance. I closed the chapter by packing away our photos, changing the locks, and returning to the version of myself I had pushed aside for too long. I started going on walks again, spending time with friends, and slowly rediscovering what it felt like to trust myself. Looking back, the truth hurt, but it also set me free. Infidelity isn't just about broken promises, it's about losing a sense of safety and then choosing to rebuild it, piece by piece. And while I didn't get closure from him, I found it in my own strength. So if you're watching this and something feels off in your relationship, trust your instincts. Ask the hard questions. Don't ignore the signs. Because the truth might hurt, but living in lies hurts even more.